Yeah.
Testing, testing, testing. Got to keep on testing.
Testing, testing, testing. Is this your... Okay. All right, that works. Yeah, I'm going to mark it here at 30 seconds for Harambe.
Quite good. Attack warning. Is it for real? Attack warning is for bloody real.
Live from Colorado Springs, the Drop Culture Podcast.
I want to confirm, is this an exercise? Roger, copy. This is not an exercise.
Come on, quick, get down. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, everybody, to the Drop Culture Podcast. We're that podcast where we pick up that piece of pop culture that you forgot about or missed, shine it up real nice, and cram it in your ear holes.
That's right.
That's right. And I'm Dan.
I'm Brock taking a drink.
That's Brock taking a drink. That's his Indian name. And I am Stands with a Crowbar. What movie are we doing today, Brock?
My science project.
What year did this come out?
1985?
Yeah, so this there's a run of these kind of movies. We'll kind of get into that. This may be the lesser of them as far as notoriety, like people knowing it.
Yeah.
Because we had Back to the Future, Weird Science, Real Genius with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
And then My Science Project with a bunch of people that you've seen in other movies. And Dennis Hopper.
Right. So, well, you know, I knew Dennis Hopper from this movie before anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Before Easy Rider?
Wow, yeah. I would have never known Easy Rider or anything like that until I got a little bit older for it.
Okay.
Nobody in my my circle or house or anything like that really did watch it.
Sure.
But whenever I saw Dennis Hopper, I always thought his character was like super cool in this, you know, the hippie dude. But
it's like the character he is in every movie.
Right.
Yeah, unless it's Waterworld.
Yes. Even then, he's the hippie dude.
Sort of,
yeah. But this kind of was my introduction to him and the type of character that he did. And I always remembered him as the hippie dude. And then when I got older, I was like, Dennis Hopper's a badass.
He is the counterculture kind of guy.
Yeah,
you know?
completely 100%. Yeah. So, yeah. That was my big thing growing up. I knew Dennis Hopper from this.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that I probably saw him in other things first.
Right.
But that was just because of the people that were around me.
Right.
You know?
Right. I don't think I saw Easy Rider until I was like 14 or something like that. So,
okay.
Yeah. This movie, My Science Project is a movie that I have watched for... God, probably since it came out on video. No joke.
Okay.
Just like all the time. Whenever it was on pay services, you know, HBO, Cinemax, and all that stuff like that, I know we had a copy of it recorded.
Well, I know that we did not. And I remember watching it once back in the day on VHS. And that was the only time I ever watched it. So this was kind of cool to get to watch it again. You know?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I see why, because it is kind of, it's not as tight as some of the other movies we just mentioned.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think we do, me and you, because I've watched it for so many times, it's got a certain thing to me.
Like a little nostalgia?
It's not necessarily nostalgia. I think it's a fucking awesome movie. I think it's a great movie. I think that the acting was sound. We kind of differ on that, but that's cool.
We'll talk a little bit more about the acting. And again, as I stated, it's not always necessarily the acting. Sometimes it's the direction.
Right.
And let's get into that, because the director on this and the writer of this, if you just look him up, you're going to be like, I don't know who the hell this guy is. What did he do besides this? And you're going to say nothing, really.
Yeah.
Until you really dig in, because this is, his name is Jonathan R. Batul.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually wrote the original screenplay for The Last Starfighter,
which is a bitchin' movie too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And it gets better because after this, he is really part of the industry. He started Luma Films. and they do all the special effects for movies that like Underworld, all the Marvel movies for like the last 10 years.
Wow.
They've worked on, you know what I mean? So this is probably maybe Dennis Hopper is more well known.
Yes.
But I would say this guy has probably had more effect on film.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, with something like that, especially.
But nobody knows his name.
15 years, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure people in the industry do.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as far as like your average man.
Yeah. I didn't even know either until I was doing my research and it was like, he did the fucking last Starfighter. Awesome. yeah, because that's another one of those that it's pretty cheesy and Lance Guest is,
Lance Guest.
Yeah, right. But it's the same kind of a story, in a way.
In a way, sure.
And then the main antagonist actually does become a really big hero, just like in this one.
Right.
I mean, it seems, and again, when we get to those parts, but it seems like that was kind of the trope on this part of it for this movie.
Yeah.
Because this movie was kind of like it stood on its own. Sure. In a way, I mean, because it did have the time travel aspect of it, but then it also had the hero aspect of it, action-wise. Then it had the science fiction aspect of it.
Well, I'd say the time travel is part science fiction.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. When I said that, it came out of my mouth. I was like, I'm stupid.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because this was actually called Time Busters, where it was released anywhere else but the U.S.
It was, where is it? Denmark or some shit like that. Time Busters. Like, they added it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sweden.
Oh, yeah. It's a weird deal. Yeah. But no, this movie really kind of, I don't know. I've just always loved it. I've loved the characters in it. In watching, the main guy in this one, Harlan.
Mike Harlan.
Michael Harlan, yeah. I always thought that his character was kind of like dumpy, when I was younger. It was like, oh man. But he's so soft spoken for a reason. He really
likes
that
cars,
well. Yeah, they play it well. And he plays it well because just like at one point they say, well, you hid in a car, these last 4 years, and I hid in books. So it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And that makes sense because they did both kind of grow really fast in like a 5-day period or some shit.
Absolutely. Let's kind of get into some of those actors. So our main character, Michael Harlan, is played by John Stockwell. And as soon as I watched this again, because like obviously when I was a kid I didn't know, I watched it one time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's the guy from Christine, not like Arnie, the main guy, but like the one that's trying to save him.
Shitters.
Yeah,
the
quarterback.
Yeah, his best friend.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah.
And so automatically I'm like, okay, and this is where we get is as we're going to go through these people. These are all people that you've seen as ancillary characters in other movies, not the main character.
Mm-hmm.
So we have John Stockwell from Christine and other things. He was actually on the Friday the 13th series as a guest appearance a couple times, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Let's tie it back to our conversation from the Quickcast
yes.
Earlier this week. But yeah, so there's that.
Danielle Von
he actually became a director.
Yeah.
So he's done some decent movies. Crazy Beautiful, which I like, Cheaters, Into the Blue. The Kickboxer Vengeance.
Sweet.
I don't know about that. But at any rate, so that's,
he did that one?
Yeah. So we had him, and then we have the girl from the movie, the main girl.
Mm-hmm. Ellie.
Yes, Ellie. And Danielle
Von Zernick.
Yes, Von Zernick. And right away I'm like, it's Donna from La Bamba.
Oh, Donna.
And that was the only thing I ever knew her from.
Yes.
And she did a few other movies after that, but nothing I'd really seen.
Not many. Yeah. No, she really didn't.
And then, of course, we have his best friend.
The versatile. Multinational.
Fisher Stevens.
That's right.
So he is a poor man's Ralph Macchio in this movie.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like when I saw him, I'm like, oh, it's like a $2 Karate Kid.
You add in all the extra stuff that he says and his character, and this is again why I like this movie a lot, because his character is the biggest. I mean, he's it's so stereotypical.
Yeah, it's obvious. So his character is a kid who moved from Brooklyn, I believe,
Yeah.
to wherever they live, Kit Carson, wherever Kit Carson High School is.
Yeah, in the sticks. In
yeah.
Northern California somewhere.
Something. And he's always talking about it. He's always like, you know, making those very stereotypical Italian kid from Brooklyn's, you know, stuff. Or a little over the top.
Oh, big time.
What blew my mind, and I did not realize who it was while watching this. And then I'm like, oh my God. Wasn't his character's name Ben?
I think so.
In Short Circuit,
Yes.
Short Circuit 2. And he was Indian.
It was
Not
so,
like, and like, my loins are on fire for you. That kind of Indian.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was like...
I am not knowing what is going on here.
It's so crazy to think that was something that somebody got away with.
I know.
But you got to think about that, but then you got to think about Jack Palance being
I know. But
being
that was
an
in the
engine.
60s.
You know what I mean? Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
And that's been happening forever.
But I think that we've gone away from that now. We really try to get those folks in
Right.
movies that you don't want somebody playing somebody else's.
Yeah, and come on, and
racial
Fisher's
appropriation.
yeah.
Fisher Stevens. What I like remembered when I saw his name, like because I didn't know who it was in this movie.
Right.
Well, I was like, hackers. He's the bad guy. He's like the
yeah.
skateboardy old 35-year-old hacker, right?
They're like, oh man, he's old. He's 28.
Which is probably what I would have said at the time when I watched Hackers. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
I was like, oh, old guy.
God dang, that dude's old. He's what, 32?
But yeah, obviously, since then, I mean, he's won an Academy Award. He's directed some stuff. Documentaries is his big thing. He just did I say just, but he did a documentary for Leonardo DiCaprio called Before the Flood.
Oh.
Which was produced by Martin Scorsese, by the way.
Dang.
So he won an Academy Award. This guy's, he's behind the scenes. He's somebody.
Yeah.
But, like, if you were looking for his acting jobs,
Yeah.
you're not going to see a ton.
Right.
Which was cool because they were kind of spaced out a little bit, too. Because,
Well, yeah, him, like I said, I mean, just knowing that both of these guys actually did become decent directors. Fisher Stevens, on the other hand, versus John Stockwell. Has kind of had a more prolific career compared on paper and stuff like that. But yeah, going from in front of the camera to behind the camera is a big thing that a lot of actors do. But I mean, look at John Stockwell, right? And look at his body type and his acting type and everything. He would have been stereotyped in any of the same roles. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's already a million people like that out there in the industry, and luckily, these people that do have these stereotype kind of attributes, right? They do get to make movies, but then they decide, you know what? I think I'm going to extend it and kind of do a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is pretty cool. I think it's cool because then you leave it up to like the Michael J. Foxes and shit like that. You know what I mean? They're the ones that are on everything, and The Rock.
And The Rock. Fair.
I love his character. I love Fisher Stevens' character in this. I mean, he's rad. He's a complete dipshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
He tries to be tough, and even whenever she says something like, "The sock's not fooling anybody," and you're like, "What?" It's like, where does this come from?
Exactly.
And yeah, he's got the freaking the Indian headdress on, and he's dating Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Totally 100% screams 1984. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who else do we got?
So I don't remember what his character's name is now. The geek kid that was the antagonist.
Oh my God. Over the top.
Crazy. Sherman.
Yeah.
And this was like the worst acting in the movie. But this guy, again, he's been a lot of TV shows. He's directed some things. He's been in a lot of video games, like Mass Effect. He was in that game. He was in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. So yeah, just But a lot of TV shows, he was on like that Once Upon a Time show. He's been on a lot of other things as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you can't really tell who he is. Because I mean, he's the quintessential Devo nerd in this. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's a lambda nerd.
He's also a big stage guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I swear to God that the library was Buffy's library. Immediately, I was like, I wonder if that was Sunnydale's library. I don't know, but super cool. And he was again over the top kind of nerd dude.
Very much the nasally and the weird laugh. Not that I can say anything. I have a weird laugh too.
Me too. But yeah. No. And then you got Richard Mauser too.
Yes.
Richard Mauser's been he is again.
And he was the cop.
Yeah,
like the main whatever.
But
cop.
you see, these people took their time to make these characters their own, and you could tell Richard Mauser. I mean, he's a good actor.
I know, and like right away, like when I see him, I'm think of It.
Yes,
you know,
yeah, of course, right.
He played Stanley, right?
Yeah, he was the one that killed himself.
Yeah.
God, he's been on a lot of different things too, and mainly in the '80s. You know, Blood In, Blood Out was one that I remember.
Of course.
That I remember a lot. But yeah, he was on a lot of different stuff. You know,
absolutely. But he's that guy where you see him and you're like, hey, I know that guy.
It's like, oh, that's Richard. I don't even know his name.
Right. You and I might know his name, you know, just because we do this. But
Yeah,
I think your
yeah.
average person's going to be like, I see this guy everywhere. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, all besides Dennis Hopper, which, Dennis Hopper doesn't need, a rundown on his career.
Dennis Hopper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 fame?
Deuce. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, and then you got Halling, too, from Northern Exposure. No, is that Halling? Yeah, that is Halling.
Oh, you're talking about Barry Corbin?
Yes.
He's the dad.
Yeah. He's the dad in this. Wasn't he on?
I remember him from Stir Crazy.
Oh, for real? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
But he's been fairly relevant. And that show, The Ranch, is very popular. I've never watched it with, I think Ashton Kutcher was on that show as well. It's like, I think it ended last year.
Ooh.
So that was a pretty popular show. That wasn't my big thing, but he was also a big One Tree Hill guy. So there's that. I didn't watch the CW back then.
Well, he was
Smallville.
He was on TV for the longest time. Oh shit, he has an A-Team credit. That's pretty cool. Northern Exposure. Yeah. I always remember him from this, and I don't know why Northern Exposure is such a big part of my memory. Like my internal, storage has at least a gigabyte worth of fucking bullshit.
All of us, dude. That's the way it works.
But it's strictly for Northern Exposure. I don't know what it is. Like a gig's being taken up on something that I have never watched again. That and Wings. You know what I mean? They like fit into the same category for me.
Well, he was kind of so he actually was in No Country for Old Men as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the last thing that I really remember him in. He did the voice for General was it Carville? Something like that in, I don't remember offhand, for those Command and Conquer games back in the day.
Oh, he does have a distinct voice.
Yes, absolutely. Very Texas.
Yeah. Big time. Come on. Big time Texas. But yeah, no. He'll always be one of those ancillary characters too that you're like, shit, that dude's in this. And even the woman too. She reminds me of
Three's Company, because that's what she was from. That's
real?
That's like, as soon as I saw her, I'm like, she's from Three's Company.
Well, she looks like Elvira to me.
Okay.
I don't know, in a way. You're
talking about his wife?
Yes.
The new stepmom
Yeah.
that he didn't even know he had? Stepmom?
What the fuck? Yeah, because she's like the makeup sales lady,
it wasn't...
no, it wasn't Mary Kay.
But it was a play on that.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's like Bobby Joe or something like that.
Something. Oh, man.
Which was, they even had a poster of that woman in there. I mean, they did take time to build something that you would find familiar.
And all of these actors, like I said, you've seen them in other things, but a lot of them, not so much with the younger part of the cast, but a lot of them were like stage people too. I mean, like they have acting chops.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Nice. Well, somebody I was watching on YouTube last night, and it was that dude that does the 10 things you don't know about, blah blah blah.
Okay.
His Minty Comedic Arts, and I think he's in Australia.
Okay.
And cool facts, but where he was talking about how
Was that 10 things for this movie?
yeah.
Oh, really? Really?
And he was talking about how maybe the movie, because this was one of Touchstone's first ones.
Yeah, right.
And
That was a little nostalgia when the Touchstone screen came out. I was like, oh yeah.
yeah, I remember that. But and it was a whatever you call it, an arm of Disney at that point too.
Correct.
Touchstone.
Yeah.
So they might have caught wind that there was going to be a Back to the Future, because Back to the Future was the one that killed everybody this year.
Yeah.
And this one came out the same
Could have been
year.
a whole different movie with Eric Stoltz.
Right. See, Eric Stoltz could have been in this. But
I don't know if that would have made it better or worse.
no. But no. Maybe they got wind of it and said, "Hey, we got to do our own thing."
Well, I think that it was obviously like we talked about. I mean, Weird Science was coming out. Like all these kind of science teenager movies were coming out. Real Genius.
Yeah, but you have Real Genius, which was more.
Kilmer, yes.
Yeah, that was Val Kilmer's first big role, and then he got Eyebrows. What's his name? The secondary character, the kid that came in.
Oh yeah.
Brows, brows and lips.
It's another episode.
Yeah, and then yeah. I mean, you have these weird kind of parallel.
But I think that happens all the time. It's like when you get Armageddon and Deep Impact in the same year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have a little bit different, but it has a major asteroid.
Right. They're similar but different.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God. Oh, I was thinking of something else. Anyway, I mean, honestly, I think the movie was well done for what they had, and then of course, it didn't make any fucking money.
I was made like $4.5 million or something. I don't know what the budget was offhand, but yeah, I don't remember.
Well, it only had 2 weeks in the theater.
Well, there was a reason, because it only made $4.5 million. And they're like,
well,
oh, shit.
I think they tried to bury it. They tried to capitalize on it, and then they buried it. And when it came out on VHS again, like Big Trouble Little China, things like that, these movie studios they bet on the wrong horse.
I would not put this in the Big Trouble Little China category.
Okay.
As far as
quality
of movie,
overall,
quality of movie,
you're right,
no
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And honestly, this movie, it dragged for like the first 50 minutes. I was like, it was okay, She was like, okay, I'm interested. I'm trying to be interested,
right?
And then that last half hour of it, I was like, this is stellar.
Yeah,
this is cool.
Yeah, and I could see where I really 100% can see where you're coming from on that part of it, because that does make sense. They had to have that, but
I'm not saying that I could have done it any better by any means, but I'm just saying for me, like having now watched movies for as long as I have, I'm like, what are they doing? Why? What? What? What?
Yeah. They
like some of the scenes were a little too long. Some of it like unnecessary stuff, but some of it built some back, which you needed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. They really, and that's the crazy part too, is they just built the world that you stepped into. Right then. They didn't really go in backstories.
They started out with backstory.
A little bit.
Well, we had the 1957.
That right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because that's where the engine
you
comes
had
from.
to set up precedent.
Yeah, but not the characters.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you had no idea. You knew one was a gearhead.
Right.
And he had a Brooklyn friend, and then you had
the geeky.
Yeah, the Geek Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
The yearbook people. And then
as soon as I saw Donna, and she's like in the glasses and kind of like she almost pronounced her front teeth to do that. It seemed like
she had the retainer in or whatnot.
Whatever.
Yeah, she had braces.
But I was like, this is going to be where they turn her into the hot girl.
Yep.
You know, like in every
Mm-hmm.
teenage movie.
Yep. She's gonna lose her glasses.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like, damn.
That's Donna. Richie Valens loved her.
Lou Diamond Phillips, Richie Valens.
That's right. That's right.
As far as I'm concerned, Bob is always gonna be Bob.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
nobody
true.
could ever replay that character.
Agreed.
But
So, should we start where the movie starts out in 1957, sir?
yes, 1957, and you don't see anything on screen. You just hear
Right.
the chatter,
Yep.
which is crazy,
I like
which is
that.
cool.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, because you have to allude what's going on, and then it went down,
And then you see the cavalcade of cars coming through.
So are they?
And that's really the only time you know what kind of time period is because of the style of vehicles that are driving down the road.
exactly.
Until they get out, and then you're like, okay.
And then of course President Eisenhower has some fucking golf cleats on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Double D.
Yeah, which is like I was telling you earlier. I believe in the Emmy Award-winning Futurama episode.
Oh.
It was the one that won him the Emmy. That one right there, they had the same kind of a scene,
Okay.
except for Eisenhower came and saw Zoidberg,
Nice.
and he had golf cleats on and shit like that too, which is
he
kind of
rocks
crazy.
in this movie.
Oh
too.
hell yeah! The dude that they picked for Eisenhower, I thought really looked pretty close.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And yeah, I think those actors were kind of old school guys too.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
had a lot of that last regime of principal actors. You know?
Yeah, so basically then that's where he goes, he's like, I'm sorry I had to interrupt you. This is important. And he's like, what could be more important than the war or whatever?
yeah.
then-
What?
Of course, he takes him into a crashed UFO.
Yes, and you're led to believe, which I always thought this whole time, that they were in freaking New Mexico.
Oh, gotcha.
Like in Roswell,
gotcha.
you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I thought this was like the Roswell thing, and they didn't really.
That was in the 40s, right?
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Roswell was in the 40s. the
Okay.
initial one.
Okay. Well, they said they had two bodies and shit like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, they
right?
found some dead aliens and yeah.
Yeah, and apparently they did have shots of that
Okay.
before, and I don't know why they would have taken them out. There's a lot of probably
Maybe
shit
they,
that.
maybe they were cheesy.
Man, probably. They probably would. But Rick Baker was the dude he was a consultant.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Yeah. But
And for those listening, who's Rick Baker?
he's the guy that makes the donuts.
Okay. Okay. I did not know that part.
No, Rick Baker is all over everything. He
Yes.
was Terminator.
Yeah.
He did fucking. He didn't do the Alien. I know that. God, it just right there, Terminator.
Yeah.
You know him right there. And kind of like the father of. Besides him and Tom Savini are put together, big time. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty well known name in the special effects world.
right,
In case you didn't know.
right.
So basically he's like, well, what do you want us to do with it? And he's like, get rid of it. Okay.
Yeah, and they fire a laser at
Yeah,
that shit.
some kind of weird ion cannon or something.
Well, I don't know what the fuck that was, right? So we had technology like that.
Well,
and there
who
was,
knows? Who knows?
Yeah, and aliens were like,
Tesla
"Whoops."
had a death ray.
Yeah, I
Just
guess,
saying.
right? And yeah, you get to see all of that. It's like you walked into a Spencer's in 1983. You know what I mean? You got those what? Yeah, the balls.
Yes.
With the electricity balls.
Yes. What are those called?
You know what?
We have one in the studio.
Yeah, we do. That's that's our Perceptron.
Yes.
From Futurama.
Exactly.
So of course, now we're fast forwarding to the future.
Yes.
They're at school. Dun, 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 dun. 80s school, right?
80s music.
Yeah, and it's like a fucking huge ass class that they're in. I guess it's in a tower or something like that. And it's Dennis Hopper's class, and he's talking, all kinds of nonsense. He's up
Talking about their science projects.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then of course you get Ellie.
And she's like,
I'm gonna do it over the blah blah blah, and the other dude's like, and then of course Harlan and what's his nuts are talking in the back, and he's like, hey, listen, you're gonna fail my fucking class if you don't turn in something for your science project. He's like, well, I think it was going to turn in like a catalytic converter or something. He's like, come on, man. You're smart. You're good. Don't fuck this off. You know what I mean?
Because you're not going to pass unless you get turned in.
And they're seniors, I guess, you know?
Seem that way. Yes.
Yeah. It was kind of like, oh, shit. So they were kind of walking out in the hall. He's like, hey, man, I got to get out of here. I got to turn in my science project, and I got to go, right? Right. So the whole time you're thinking, what was the spaceship? Whoops. You know what I mean? Uh-oh. And they're in this Northern California high school. So he goes outside, and his girlfriend is like, hey, I was reading Cosmo, and inside this Cosmo magazine, it said I should act now. And he's like, what's the matter? What did I do?
I take you out all the time. Yeah, like to like junkyards and the drag strip.
The car store.
Your name's on the front of my car.
Yeah. It's like, but she gives him her mink wheel.
Yeah.
And something else. I don't know. It was like he's like, what? Like he
blindsided
just woke up.
Him, but everybody else knew.
Yeah, everybody in the whole school knew.
Right.
He makes the turn around the corner, which was really fast, which, you know, that made sense later on because everybody knew. And she was like, hey, so what's going on? I finally got a picture of you. Ellie snaps a picture for the yearbook because she never had a picture throughout the whole time.
Right.
And she's like, so what do you like? He's like, cars. What do you like to do? Cars. You know.
Well, yeah. What do you do in your downtime?
Cars. you know. Come on, might as well do it. And she's like, something.
Oh, the goat.
Yeah,
she
yeah,
says goat.
Yeah.
Like, what?
He's like,
of course, he's talking about his GTO.
Yeah, I love my goat. And he's like, what goat? What are you talking about? Of course, they don't know.
No.
That's the only thing that they don't know about is how to get around town. You know, dude knows how to load a freaking machine gun, but yet doesn't know what a goat is.
Nope.
So then you get to meet his Vinny, right? Yeah. Is that his character, Vinny?
Vince, yeah.
Vince. And he's like, well, so I heard, it was a bad deal. And he's like, what? Everybody knows this fast?
Because he was then taking the plate off that said Christine.
Yeah, he was.
What was it? That wasn't Christine.
No, it was not even Charmaine.
I don't remember what her
Crystal.
name was.
Yeah, I think it was Crystal. So he's knocking it off with like a chisel and hammer too, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
like instead of like unscrewing it, he's just like, I wonder what kind of rivets he used.
Yeah,
or something.
He did something special to keep that thing on there.
Yes. It was a rivet.
That's probably what he thought was romance.
Oh yeah. He's got I got your license plate on my car.
Riveted on.
It's riveted. Like it's not gonna fall. Which is a badass fucking car.
Oh, it's
that
totally
car.
Cool ass
Oh
car, yeah.
Shit. That GTO with the blower on it, the fucking everything. That car was top shit.
And he's legit. Like he had like a fire extinguisher up in the corner. Like he knew.
Yeah,
he knew what he was driving.
Oh my god, he was gearhead Harlan. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
even though I do think that one where like when he leaves school and drives to where he works, and he like whips around and parks behind that car, I'm like, they totally sped that up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You think so?
I think they sped the film up on that.
Well, he was always like screeching and shit like that. Well, at the end of the day, because of course we meet Vinny and he's doing all these pop culture references, about Mannix and all this other stuff. And he's like, hey, put those headers on. And he makes some like... he makes a crazy comment about some dude, and he's like, whoa, that's pretty nice. Let's go. And then they take off.
Before we get to that, because where he's having a conversation with the teacher, Bob, Dennis Hopper, I love when he starts going off like Michael's already walking away. Yeah. And he's like talking about the 60s,
free love,
free love. And then he hits the gas. Yes. He like pulls out a tank and like gets a little gas huff in there.
Like helium or some shit.
I don't know if it was helium, but probably some dental. Whatever, you know what I mean? Like the Novocaine or something. Oh, yeah. The laughing gas, Yeah.
It's lithium. Yeah. So it just kind of takes him down a little bit because he's tripping.
And all the totally colors. That character.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Robert Roberts Esquire. That's Robert Esquire to you, honky.
Yeah, Kojak.
Yeah, what the fuck? So they do that wipe, and of course Ellie's at the front gate.
Right.
There's only one way in, one way out. Now I have a personal connection to this movie.
Okay.
A very personal
You
connection.
dated Ellie?
Nope.
Oh,
To this part of the movie,
okay.
there is something, but I'll tell you when. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, so she basically takes the distributor cap off, and of course she's blocking everybody. And Harlan, what's the matter? And
Which is his delivery, by the
yeah,
way.
what's the matter? Come on, Ellie. So he pops it on. He's like, oh.
Distributor caps don't just fall off on their own.
And she's like, oh, well, I don't want to be the class Spencer.
I don't want to be voted the class spinster. Yeah.
Yeah, spinster. Would you go on a date with me? He's like, oh. And
Then he looks up and sees his girlfriend making out with that other dude.
he's like, okay, at 8. I'll come pick you up at 8. Be outside at 8. She's like,
don't you want to meet my parents? And he's like,
no. Come on, Sawyer.
be outside at 8.
You want to do this? It's like, okay. So she takes off and everything like that. And then, yeah, you kind of get that whip around shot where he goes home because he works at the garage. That's right there.
I think it was when he was pulling up in front of the garage and does that whip around is where I was like, they totally sped up that.
He's always like screeching. And then you get to see his last name on the hardware store.
Yep,
So it's
Harlan.
Harlan Hardware or something like that.
Yep.
Ace Hardware, Harlan style. So
Dad got that hardware store money, son.
yeah, so the first thing you get to see in this apartment that was above the hardware store was a dog eating Chinese food out of the box.
Yes.
So and then it's
And we meet his dad and his new girlfriend,
right.
we think.
and
I
they're kind of
guess.
like necking and
Yeah, like feeding each other food and
Yeah.
weird. Like
Yeah.
I've never fed anybody food that close to my face. That
Well,
would,
it was the 80s. They were living life.
something.
So he's like, oh,
and he calls her Louise.
yeah. What are you doing in here?
Yeah.
And so
He's a strange character, that's for sure.
so he goes into his room and everything, and I guess he gets ready, and he does pick up Ellie. So they kind of do a time jump where they're sneaking into the
Yeah, so where does he take her for their date?
old Air Force Base, underground
junkyard.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I need something for my science project.
So they break into an Air Force junkyard.
They just kind of walk in.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
they had to go through a fence.
Yeah, and you have I don't know, one of the dudes from Police Academy like freaking watching the place.
And we'll talk about that.
yeah.
I have thoughts.
Yeah,
Um,
and so he's listening to a ball game and everything, and they're sneaking past him, right? So they go, and he's like, didn't you know that this used to be like an old army base?
Well, they did testing site, an old testing site. he
Yes,
says.
yes. So of course that's where the spaceship was at.
Like
I
you
get
know
it.
right away.
You're like,
Especially when he falls through.
yeah,
And you're like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
He takes one step, and it's a fallout shelter with like a 3/8 inch thick metal plate on the top of it because he's like fallout shelter.
Dude, and here's the part. So, like, when they show the snake for a long time, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
creepy crawlies.
And then the lizard, I'm like, what is going on?
Wait, it's a Gila monster. Don't let it bite you; it'll kill you. Treasure of the Sierra Madre. So he's looking around, just trying to find something. Then the last thing, Ellie's like, showing off the jugs and everything, right? Because they have that forward shot
Yes.
where she's basically hanging out of her dress, which is like very inappropriate. It's
And then the
weird.
rat comes up,
Yeah, and she's and then the dude's like, oh, yeah,
and him and his dog come out. So Michael gets out with this,
whatever it is.
the globy, the electro globy thing.
You can see it
with
glowing the
metal.
whole time.
Yeah,
in there, too.
absolutely. And so he's like, we got to get out of here because they're coming, whatever. And he just walks by. He doesn't even help her down. He's just like, no, we got to go.
Get down.
And like she can hear him coming. And this guard, catches up to him enough where he can see him. And he's got this German Shepherd that he's holding on to the whole time. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't you just let go?
Ooh.
That's what guard dog, German shepherds, especially military police dogs, is what that should have been.
It's what it should have happened.
But that didn't happen.
No.
He's just like, darn it.
Oh gosh, darn! You guys left me in the dirt. Oh.
And then they get out and they get in the goat and they're going down the road. And what happens, Brock?
The electricity's gone because we see the little thingamadoo, the gizmo is what they call
the
it.
gizmo.
Actually takes the energy out of the lights.
The 2 flashlights.
Yeah,
Because he has her throw down another one.
And he doesn't see that happen. It's like, "Doof," and he's like, huh, that's weird. And then he grabs another one. "Doof, huh, that's weird. And it's like, huh, it's taking energy. And it's sitting in his back window.
Right.
Why would he put it in the back window instead
Makes
of the
no
trunk?
sense.
Makes
no sense.
Yeah, it's like you have to get into the back seat to do that shit.
Well, I like where she's like, well, at least we're close, we can walk.
can
And he's
walk.
like, no, people will know that my car broke down.
Gearhead Harlan has to walk into town. Hold on. So
So he flags down the truck. Can I use your CB?
can I use your radio? He's like, oh, hey, what is it, Brooklyn boy? This is the Red Goat or some goat red or something like that. That's what his
Whatever.
call signs were.
Yeah. I didn't catch that, but
Yeah, and then of course it's Fisher Stevens is making out, and he's making some of his famous cherry coolers, like the dude from freaking The Blob. He's like, "Why don't you have one of my famous cherry coolers?"
right.
So they're Cyndi Lauper and him are just kind of, I don't know, neck, and he's like, but he throws down. He's like, "Guess what? My boy needs help."
Yeah, and
It's
she's like,
"Fuck this."
she's like, come on.
Oh, come on. No, what are you doing? Oh, you're going to leave me alone? And he's like, okay. So they fucking take off. They get down there, and he's pushing him.
Yeah, pushing his car with his car into town.
And his car is pretty freaking badass,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That was like...
I don't know what it was.
Must have been like a Oldsmobile or a Buick or something like that. I mean, it had really cool lines.
Doesn't
on
it? It had the awesome bumper sticker said, "My other car is also a piece of shit," or something
Yes,
like that.
it had that, and then whenever they're getting towed, or whenever he's pushing him and that truck's behind him honking, he's like,
Oh yes,
he pulls a little bitty horn, and the plastic finger comes up, and he's like, "What is that, your IQ?" You can hear the dude say that. It's like, ha ha. And so they're there, and he's like, because they drop off Ellie Sawyer.
right.
She's like, you can call me Ellie. Okay. And then that's where the nerd's like,
Yeah, he's watching from afar with his really glowy radio stuff.
Yeah,
like,
no
I'm like,
shit.
how did they not see him?
yeah, 2 red lights. He's like across the street.
Yeah, right.
There's like a normal 2-lane street, and he's across the street.
And then the other 2 dudes that were kind of bullying him around earlier, or the other 3 dudes that were bullying him around earlier, they kind of creep out, and I thought, oh, they're gonna fuck with him, but no, they're making a deal for them to go after Harlan.
What were you? Do you remember what they were going to get out of it?
A video cassette tape,
Yes.
a
A term paper.
term paper, and a science project.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, with that
We're
one.
square. Yeah, and then he disappears into the bushes like Homer.
And then he falls.
Yeah.
You hear him?
Of course, right?
Right.
So they're back at the garage, and homegirl's doing, the thigh master, right? And she's checking her boobs out, like it's supposed to like make them bigger or chest stronger or something.
Yeah.
And he makes that fucking shitty comment. He's like, you know what I can't believe? It's past 10:30 and you haven't turned into a pepperoni pizza.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Through this whole movie, you're going to get a lot of those. A lot of those comments.
Like they don't make sense.
No.
That one didn't, but it was funny because it was so stupid. I
He's
would have laughed.
Italian. He's from Brooklyn. Hey, he's
would've laughed.
walking.
I would have been like, dude, that's dumb. It was so funny. It's dumb.
Get over here, skinny Ralph Macchio.
Yeah. So of course, he figures out that it was, the electrical system is shorted out somehow.
Right. And so he starts messing with the thing, and that's when because they're in the auto class, right?
Well, it's the next day.
Next day, yeah.
And he's got to turn in his science project or something that day. That's why
Because
he
he
went
talks
that night.
he talks to the teacher, Bob.
And he says, you need to
Come
both
back
you
at
guys
9
need to-"
o'clock. I'll be grading papers because I'm leaving for
Oh, he's got a
anti-war protest reunion.
Alumni event. Yeah, what? So they're in the garage, and home dude's like,
He's got his boom box.
yeah, my box, man.
Because it takes all the energy out of his box. Because he actually starts
cleans
flipping
it, yeah.
he cleans it, but he starts flipping the levers out and then makes it power up. Basically.
He does a couple of things to it, and he's cleaning it and accidentally presses the button because he's getting ready to go to class, right? So they're just chilling. Home dude's waxing the top of his car, sitting on it with ruffles, which is weird. Like he had groceries in the freaking place, right? So literally they're just like dicking around because it's the end of school, and they're like, oh, well, I passed this class, right? I'm a gearhead. They're going to let me do whatever I want to.
Right.
So he's cleaning. He pops a little bitty button. And it's like, and he's like,
and the sides come out.
and then he
like the Universal Soldier truck.
Yes. And then he pushes them in, and it's like, pew.
Yeah.
It's like, huh, that's weird.
Like you get the green lights on the thing, and you can see it's almost like another language that's on it, and it turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's doing something weird. So, they come over, and then it's, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it.
They hook it up to the battery.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, hand me that battery. Cause it destroys his boombox.
Right.
I just like the sound he made. He's like, my box. And then they hook up the battery to it, but yet that creates this weird kind of just like one-off kind of pew.
Yeah, like you see the energy almost dissipate over them.
Right. And then all of a sudden a vase from ancient Greece pops up.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my only thing with all of this. I mean, are they... Okay, because you got to think, if you do time travel in the same spot, you're going to end up, I guess, in the movies, you end up in the same spot.
But not with this one.
With this one, it's just grabbing shit from everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like wherever.
And I think it was, and this was my thought too, because later on we get more time travel and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the limited amount of power that battery had.
Well, yeah. But why did it grab just the vase from ancient Greece? Because if they were in America, there would have been nothing there.
Well, 100%. But again, like you said, it just randomly grabs stuff throughout time. And we're going to see that throughout because later on there's people from Vietnam there.
Yeah. See, and what I'm thinking is if they were going into a different time warp in a different time period in the same spot, it means that they were on different points of the earth while it was rotating.
Could be.
I
I thought of it more like a time storm. So it was just a little more random than that.
Because if all time was on a line, I guess, what is that, string theory or some shit like that? All time was on a line, and you had multiple different versions of everything wherever they were. It's just so random that it grabbed.
It's very random.
Yeah, and then there was also an axe at the end of it. They're like, oh, well, we better get to class or we're going to miss it. They go outside.
And they don't see the axe.
No.
But you see it stuck in the wall. Or
right. When they run out. So it's like, wait a minute, there's mutants.
We come to find out.
Yes. So they have something from ancient Greece show up. So they grab that and he puts it in his like little bin. Like they don't even look at that and be like, "Oh my god."
Well, before that, they're like, "What?"
Yeah,
it's like school's out.
Yeah,
they lost 2 hours of time while they were there with it.
Well, he even grabs the pliers to try to turn it off, and the pliers disappear. And he's like, "Oh wow." The pliers
are pliers in ancient Greece now.
Yeah, I guess, right? Maybe they're in Nazi Germany. We don't know.
We don't know.
So
that's why I went with my time storm theory.
Right. He was just like whipping everything in a circle.
Yeah, exactly. Sucking it all back to here.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah,
I'm going with that.
It's like a whole universal thing. So they go outside. They notice they're like, "Why is everybody leaving for the end of the day?" And they're like, "Oh shit! How do we lose 2 hours?" And then they catch up with Bob Roberts.
Yes.
And he's like, "Listen, guys, you ditched my class. You both failed. I'm going to give you a D." And he's like, "Whoa.
I'll take it."
Well, yeah. Home dude's like, "Yeah, I'll fucking take it. Let's do it." And he's like, "No, man." So he hops into his VW bus, right? And he's going to that alumni meeting. He's like, "Meet me back here, 9:00. I'll be grading papers." Yeah. So he's like, "Okay." So they don't tell him about it, and even home dude Vince asks him, "Hey, why didn't you tell him? He's like, no, we're gonna show him.
That's a show you kind
Yeah.
of thing,
He's
anyways.
not gonna-
I would think.
Yeah, he's like, well, I need to call somebody. So he walks over there, and home dude pushes the nerd out of the way. And he's like, he's gonna have to call you back or something.
He had to
like
go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and that was whenever they kind of both laughed at each other.
Yeah,
like he was being a complete asshole, and then Harlan's
Michael's
like,
yeah.
knocking the nerd out for some reason in the bushes.
Maybe it was like an ad lib thing, like
Yeah, like a total douche. Yeah, maybe the ad lib was what he said to it.
right.
So yeah, they're like, oh, well, what the crap is this? And they end up coming back to the school. Bob's
With the gizmo.
Yeah, Bob's like all messed up, right? They get into the school. They're in his office, his tower, and he even says like, who did something? He was grading a paper, and the guy was like, Boy George, and he's
Yeah.
like, God, who? These people, this is just dumb. So they bring it in, right? And it's still, it's all glowy and cool, right? Ellie's there, Vince is there, and Harlan. And he basically is like, this is like not even a metal
Like he understands it right away.
immediately, which is crazy.
Probably because he's done a lot of hallucinogenics.
Yeah, a lot of acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, acid opened his third eye,
That's right.
his 12th brain. Yeah, so he ends up hooking like another big kind of a fucking battery
And
to
it
it.
melts it.
Big time.
And they get some action there, some time action.
And he's like, I can feel it. This is
Yeah.
like a time warp, man. Because they go to visit the dude in the library, and he's like, we're looking for a book. He's like, the card books are over there. He's like, no, for real. And that's when you get the banter between the nerd and Vinny, And he's
Right.
like, I'll kick your ass, man. So they describe the whole story and everything. He's like, oh, that's a time warp. Watch
Yeah.
this. Okay, so that's our introduction into that.
Right.
And then Bob Roberts gets it.
He knows it right away.
He's like, it's a fucking time warp.
So after the battery melts, he decides to plug it into,
He's like, more power. Watch this.
Yeah. and everything goes wackadoodle. Like there's just energy spewing out everywhere, and
Right.
Bob just disappears.
Yeah, and he gets stretched.
Yeah,
Which that
Yeah.
was so crazy too. He's like, I can feel the universe in my hands. This is awesome. This is so great. Ah. Wow.
Phenomenal cosmic power.
Right.
Itty bitty living space.
yes. So they just like run out.
Yeah,
They're like,
what
fuck
are you
this.
gonna do?
Yeah. They don't unplug it.
No,
So they just run. They get out and they're like,
No.
what are we gonna do?
don't they unplug it?
No.
Because dude plugs it back in later.
No, they had to because they didn't unplug it because it was still going.
Oh,
it's
right,
like
because
the
they had to
doohicke's
go
still
try
there.
to figure out how to get there before it got to the power plant.
Right. He's like, but what if it gets out of here
Right.
and it could cause this deal? Because the geek dude, the nerd guy, tells him that this could cause a cataclysm and destroy all of humanity if
When they're talking about the theory of it, basically, yeah.
if
in the
it gets
library.
out of place, because he quotes Einstein and says that if you had control over time, that you would just cause chaos or something crazy like that. It'd be too much.
So they go to the hardware store where, handy dandy, they have some dynamite,
Damn right.
as you do in a hardware store in
I mean, shit.
1985.
Yeah, you need to get into a mine. You use it, right? So of course they have Bob Roberts' peace sign
Right.
necklace, which mysteriously fell off.
Yes.
Maybe it was in his pocket. I don't know, but I don't think so. It was around his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that fell off. And it falls down while they're getting, because of course Vince is doing the Mission Impossible theme and stuff like that. He's like, shut up. He's always constantly being like, stop it.
It's because that dude's always talking.
Oh yeah, he never stops. He's like, I saw this one episode where like that vase like appears out of nowhere. He's like, dude, stop. This is serious. It's like always he's got
So
an
this
anecdote.
is where science goes right out the damn window, because they race the energy in the GTO
Yes.
to the power plant or out of town or whatever.
They were following it.
Yeah.
Power only went one direction into this town.
Yeah.
One way in, one way out. Just
apparently.
like the school parking lot.
Right, exactly. So, but he he kicks on the
It's the blower.
blower and just burns past this energy because science.
Well, I'm no shit. Like, I mean, he hits 100 and he hits the blower, right? While Ellie is sitting in the middle of this thing. He's an excellent driver.
Yes.
Like, you know,
that car would have been doing 100 well before that, in my opinion.
Before,
especially if he's a gearhead.
Yeah, and you know, Home Dude was like, "Hey, what's the matter? You gonna put your foot in this? Let's go. I thought the Go had more than this." Right. And then he just lays into it, and you get to see it just kind of two different, like, tachometers or speedometers. They're going at the same time, right?
Well, I think he has the tach like up to like 12,000 RPMs or something.
Well, whenever he freaking clicks it on, it's like, okay, hold on. Pew! So yeah, this weird that they beat it by like
enough time to strap all of this dynamite to this electrical tower.
Yeah, and figure out how it works.
Yeah. And then so they blow that up so it doesn't get out of town.
Well, they almost didn't blow it up.
No.
Because, of course, the freaking detonator has a issue with it. And he's like, oh, I'll have to use my car. And you could see it coming.
Yep. That's how energy works when it's going through stuff. You can see it.
Yeah. Especially this energy, right?
Timey-wimey energy is definitely something you can physically see.
So,
and outrun in a GTO.
Right. Well, why not? Had to use that car for something.
Because science. Anyway.
So they end up they end up exploding everything, right? It sounds like Dan caught a piece of electricity in his throat.
Yeah.
So they're going into town, of course, and like what is it? The power company's going through, you know, Bell South or some shit like that. It's going through everything. Pac Bell. And they're trying to restore the power, and they're like, oh, don't tell anybody. What are we going to do? The doohickeys still hooked up.
Gizmo.
Yeah, well, so they go back by because they do get, his car gets toilet papered or shaving creamed or
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Powder.
By the stormtroopers.
Yeah. The three guys that Sherman hired.
Yeah, the jocks.
Yeah.
And the terminal preppies. So yeah, they basically run off right as soon as everything's taken off because the lights are flickering. Everything's doing something freaking weird. And they destroy it. They come back in. And he's like, this is my stop. He's like, you're cool. You're cool. I'm cool. See you later. Yeah. While they're drinking. They were even drinking it in school.
Yeah, they were. Beers.
Drinking. And he had a freaking cigar in his mouth while he was in typing class.
Wasn't lit, though.
No, but still freaking weird.
His typing skills are on point.
Literally. Yeah. One finger at a time. And they're like sharing a X-Men magazine.
Right.
So yeah, they're dropping everybody off. He drops Sawyer off and blah, blah, blah. So he sneaks back into his room, right?
Right.
And guess who's there?
Whatever her name was.
No. Richard Mauser's there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Pecos Bill. And I haven't had a good case in a long time. So yeah, he's got to take him in,
right?
Because they found the peace symbol, and he's like, "Oh, you were friends with him," blah blah blah,
right?
Because they try to go back to get the doohickey, the gizmo, and
they call Ellie, right?
Well, they were all three in the car at that time, and they go by, and the jocks are getting arrested,
right?
You know,
right?
So. They're like, what the hell are you guys doing here? Why did they stay at the school? I mean,
no idea.
It was weird. You know what I mean?
But while they're isn't that what he uses his phone call for, though? To call Ellie?
No.
Am I wrong?
No. Because whenever he's in his room, he's like, hey, you're going to come down to the station with me. You know, to answer some questions. He's like, okay, you mind if I get my jacket?
That's right.
So then he grabs his phone, and it's a rotary dial.
It's 1985.
Right.
Yeah.
So
plenty of those still around in 1985.
Well, the only reason why I say that is because it takes freaking forever to dial one of those things while a cop is outside waiting. He's just going to get his jacket. You know what I mean? So he tells her she's got to go get it because she's like, oh, we made out. It was so awesome. You know, and that's where that line, you know, I was into cars and you were in, and I was into books.
Yeah, you were into cars.
So, you could tell that sparks are flying. Literally.
What?
Yeah.
The sparks really start flying when Ellie goes to pick this thing up.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the nerd dude's there.
Sherman.
Yeah, he scares the shit out of her. She's like, ah. And he's like, oh, let's do this again.
Yeah.
Of course. And this time, the electricity is not messing around. The gizmo is not fucking around at this point. So it's like taking energy out of the ionosphere or some shit like that, right? Because they did get the power back on. I guess whatever they did to fix it, they routed it to another one in, one out kind of a deal. And so she, of course,
20 years later, they would learn about redundancy.
Yeah, she explodes and lands somewhere else, right?
Right.
And then that's when Sherman is running out, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Because you get that whole police station scene with Vinny and him
when the power all goes out.
Yeah, and Vinny's like being the comedian and shit like that, and like he's making fun of the Richard Mauser, and he's just grabbing him by the neck, and he's like, "Ow, stop it, Kojak," And then the one woman cop is like, "Why are you wearing shades?" He's like, "When you're cool, the sun shines on you 24 hours a day." But then she puts him in his place, and he's like, "Whoa, okay, sorry." Go get a manicure or something like that, right? So yeah, they escape very easily, I might say.
As soon as the power went out, they were like, okay.
And that was a very busy police station at 11 o'clock at night?
Oh yeah, whatever.
Holy crap.
In this small town. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like there's the laughing dude, and he even's running out laughing, So
he's the town weirdo.
Yeah, it's like a Detroit police station from RoboCop, like busy constantly. You know what I mean? So he gets out. His GTO is apparently parked right in the front.
Yeah, that's where you park it.
Yeah, I mean,
no
why
impound.
not? Yeah, no. Why didn't he ride in the cop car there? I don't know. Because Dad and new stepmom have to go with him too. Dad's there, and she's like, "This is our honeymoon." You know what I mean?
Because they got married in Vegas, or
right?
something.
So they get to the front door, and Vince is like, "No, I'm not going in there. Hold on a second." And then Home Dude comes out, and they're like, "What the?
Sherman?
Yeah, what are you doing, man?" I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. Blah blah blah. This is where it gets really good.
Yeah.
And so, of course, he grabs the shotgun that he never fires once.
No, that was something I was going to mention.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, still, when they go to fire it, it's out.
Yeah, I know.
Something
was cut.
They mostly use it as a sword.
Yes. Well, what's funny, when they're going down the main hall of the high school, you got the one dude that's like floating the... you got the Nazis, right?
Right.
And then they have like the seafarer.
Mm-hmm.
He's like throwing a fishing pole, like, what? And even the Nazi was like, huh? Where are we? And then the little Lord Fauntleroy or whatnot with the handkerchief is like floating, and it's like, whoosh. And they even show him like up close instead of the hologram style.
Right.
And then, of course, the Neanderthal dude just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and of course he blocks it with the shotgun.
Right. And
that's what shotguns are for.
Yeah. Well, because Cleopatra throws the
flower,
the lotus flower or whatnot out, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get me some." Here comes Vinny, and he busts out, and the Neanderthal doesn't he cut? He doesn't cut Sherman at that point, but Sherman gets cut in the next part. But he's like, yeah, whatever he is, one kick to the cajoles are gonna lay anybody out.
Right.
So,
which it does.
Well, it does, and it knocks this Neanderthal out. It's like, he's like worn out, got kicked in the balls. He's like, oh my god, what's going on?
Caveman got NARS.
So the next room, this is like a video game.
It 100% is from this point on.
So they get to the next room, and it's a freaking they're at the Coliseum or something.
Yeah. So this part blew my mind, because like there's two gladiators fighting, and the one kills the other one, and he stands up and he says something they don't understand. The other guy's Sherman's like, he's gonna kick our ass.
Yeah.
But apparently Michael Harlan, easily a match for
A gladiator.
A gladiator.
This is where he turns on the hero. Like, literally, like, I have to be the freaking hero right now. Really?
What?
Yeah.
And this is where Sherman gets cut.
Yeah. He gets cut in the arm, and he actually kills the dude.
Yeah.
Like, kills him. And the guy's 18 years old, and like, I just killed a gladiator.
Yeah, he's like freaked out about it.
Yeah.
You would be, I guess.
But that flipped a switch in him.
Yeah.
To where he's like,
I
number
don't
one
know.
badass.
I don't know how he knew how to fight like that.
No, I don't know. Right?
This guy fights for life.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
High school senior Michael Harlan,
Yeah.
gearhead, suddenly.
But you hear the crowd the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
You hear
can
him,
hear
like,
him in the background.
Yeah, and then I bet you the dude was like, "We who are about to die salute you." You know what I mean?
He was just waiting for his shot to fight the other dude. The
Yeah.
Gladiator guy.
The gladiator.
Yes.
My name is Gladiator. Son of a slain wife. Son of a slain son.
That doesn't make any sense. Are you your own grandpa?
Yes, I am. I'm the Spaniard.
Oh, Russell Crowe.
So what's the next one?
So the next one's Vietnam, right?
Is it the Vietnam, or is it whenever they go through the gym? No, it's Vietnam.
It's Vietnam. So they see like the like crashed plane or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this group of Viet Cong come around the corner, and they're all carrying like AKs.
Yeah, and the dude's like, "Hey, it's exchange students."
The worst.
What?
And they just start firing on the plane thing, and then they pull the dude out.
Yeah, and guess who's one of the Viet Cong?
Who?
The dude that's the
Ultimate Stuntman?
yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's him.
Genghis Khan from
Yeah.
Bill and Ted's?
Yep, 100%.
Nice.
He's the first one. He's the lead.
I didn't even notice.
Lead Viet Cong. So they actually, he's about to fire, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm all out, man." Because they're sneaking up on him in a hallway, and nobody thinks it's weird, you know? Because I guess they're seeing the jungle. They're
Right.
seeing the other side.
Sure.
So they're like, "Get him." And of course, they kick the shit out of the Viet Cong.
As you would. I
Yeah,
mean,
even
you know,
Sherman does. He like
Sherman's
uppercuts a dude.
badass.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're like fighting for their lives, and they're really good at it. You know,
Right.
what I mean? They might get hurt a little bit, but they're really good. And so, so he's
No
like, "Thanks,
Heron cook,
guys."
though.
Yeah. They're like, get their guns. So they get their guns, and then the Vietnam pilot's like, "Thanks, guys. Later." And then they go into the future.
And Sherman
world.
tells them how to work their guns.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, let's catch our breath," and he's like, "Oh, by what this means, you gotta."
Drop the empty.
Yeah, pop in the new one, the new
Cock back
magazine.
the-
Yeah, and he's like, and then you're ready to go, and he's pointing it at Vinny, and he's like, "Oh, gotta move that way." So then they end up in Future World, that's full of like pig mutants.
Yeah. The slow mutants
Yes, yeah, it's the pig mutants
from
like,
the apocalypse.
Yeah, and he's like, "Must be the apocalypse." Really?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they have like energy cannons.
They have energy cannons and fluorescent lights.
Well, of course they do. It's the
No,
future.
yeah. Yeah. But I guess, what do they advertise in Atari? You know what I mean? So
That's just how they do.
well, they take them out with lead,
Yeah, well,
you know.
they take them out handily.
except for
And
the
apparently
one.
the mutants are not very good at firing weapons. 'cause
No.
they can't hit. They get the one gets a drop on them.
Yeah, and he still can. He's like, "Wee!" And they're like, "Oh shit! Now we got time."
I was trying to figure out if because they were kind of pig mutants, if that had something to do with Animal Farm.
Maybe. So they actually do. They shoot that dude like a couple of times. He falls into like the lockers, but then he's still coming at them. And they're like, "No, let's leave." So they get into the gym. Guess what?
Which is a jungle now.
Of course, because it's the biggest room.
Right.
It's prehistoric land. You know, they
This
make
is
it.
where we get the badass T-Rex.
The T-Rex is walking by, and it's like, huh, basketball. You know, this T-Rex actually has really long arms too, like arms that can actually reach down and pick up a lot of shit. It was kind of crazy.
Which I did, and I don't remember who it is now, but I believe somebody had something to do with Theodore Rex, the Whoopi Goldberg movie.
Oh,
So I'm throwing that in
Ouch.
there. Yeah.
probably Fisher Stevens.
I think it was. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Fisher Stevens was on Mario Brothers.
Yes, he was.
He was one of the brothers. But yeah, so I mean, that was a really cool dinosaur in this one. I mean, it looked really cool.
It was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, it moved right. Didn't look all jumpy and jerky and shit like that. You could tell it was superimposed. You know, they were superimposed on it. So Sherman sneezes. He's like, my allergies.
Our writer-director also wrote and directed Theodore Rex.
Fucking A, man.
There you go.
Damn right. Because that is a great movie.
Get out of here.
I got it on VHS, clamshell. So
I'm slowly judging you over it.
So they basically are taking on this freaking thing, and Harlan's got a freaking grenade launcher that he seems to open up every 5 seconds just to check.
Yeah, he kicks it back a couple times.
Yeah.
And of course, Vinny gets picked up by the T-Rex arm you never thought could happen.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it, I'm going to go after him, and starts firing at him, and the T-Rex is not even budging until Harlan shoots him in the stomach with the thing.
And that grenade launcher did some damage.
It like blew out his freaking insides.
His whole insides, yeah, from the outside. And I don't know if you've ever shot like a grenade launcher on the bottom of an M16 or something like that.
Mm-mm.
That's not how they work. That is not it.
Well,
sir.
that
'Cause
one
it like
did.
went like a rocket into them, and they kind of go like a golf ball. So just so you know,
Maybe he was so close. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. and then it's like they think Vinny's gone, and Sherman like passes out whenever he sees it, and then they all get up and they're like, we're almost there. We just got to go through this one hallway, and we're home
Sherman
free.
almost leaves.
Right.
And they're like, no, sir.
Yeah. So they finally get up to the top, but yet they're being chased by the pig mutants.
Right.
100%. I don't know what they were going to do because the pig mutants were coming over the whole time, right? They were coming after them, you know, the whole time. So they finally get up to Bob Roberts' class, right? I'm like, what are we going to do? Where's Ellie? So he goes down there. He rescues Ellie, pulls her up, and he's like, okay, now we got to get out of here.
And
then
now
the
she
pig
doesn't have her
mutant,
glasses on anymore. And
yeah. And then the pig mutant's trying to bust down the door.
Right.
Right. So it's like, what? He's like, I got to end this now. So he goes down. And he's going to unplug the thing.
Right. And he's got energy going all over him.
Just like
fighting through.
Just like Bob Roberts.
Oh, Bob Roberts.
Right. So he like
Esquire.
he finally does it. He gets rid of it, and they're like, no, and he disappears.
Right.
Ah, shit. Right. So everything starts getting sucked back in, right? It's like
Right.
and then she's
Bob
like
reappears, right?
well, he does.
Oh, he disappears and then reappears and then Bob.
So he gets returned to his right time.
Yeah.
You know, but he must have been passed out the whole time because that like hurt him.
Right.
You know, so they're like, all right, let's get out of here. You know, so they finally get out of there. They're going out of the deal, right? This is the crazy part. All the firemen's and all the policemen's and everything like that, even Richard Mauser is there.
Yes.
Is like, hey, you guys need to get out of here really quick. Nobody asked them, what the hell are you doing in the school right now? But they're coming out. Yeah. They're coming out all like messed up and dirty and stuff. And they're like, well, you just move along. Go. Just go. And they take a rest on a police car. Home dude just stole a police car.
Right.
Home dude just stole one. No joke. And they're just like, hey, what's up, Vinny? You know what I mean? Weird.
Maybe they were a fire department from out of town.
I guess. Yeah. They were from the neighboring place that didn't have electricity and they had to come over.
That's right.
It's a busy town. You know? So they kind of do the whole, wow, we did it, don't tell anybody about this. And he's got this big giant
like
lunchbox size freaking boombox underneath his arm. And nobody's like, what is that?
Right.
Nobody questions it.
Nope.
So they need to get rid of it again because honestly,
Bob Roberts reappears here.
Yeah, he comes out and he's like, hell no, we won't go. And he's
been
rocks.
in the 60s the whole time.
Right.
He went to Woodstock.
He took a tour through the 60s.
Yes.
How did he do that?
Because he's Bob Roberts. He had his third eye open. He controlled his trip.
Yeah, and you notice his outfit?
Well, I did.
It's the exact same. It's the exact same as Easy Rider outfit. The hat was different, but
and it was pretty close.
Yeah, even whenever he puts him in the car, he say, "Hey, man, watch the fringe."
But he calls him Pig a lot.
Pig,
Oink.
honky,
Oinker.
Yeah, oinker. He's like Robert Roberts Esquire.
So Mauser arrests Bob for what reason I don't know.
Because he's the hippy dippy.
Because he's the hippy dippy adult that was involved.
I guess. And just walks past the kids.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, get rid of this shit. That was awesome.
I'll give you an
needs
A.
it. Yeah, you got an A. You guys pass.
Right.
But let's get out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the next scene is them dropping off the doohickey.
Yeah, it's really just him, right? That we see.
Yeah. But
Going
Ellie's
into-
there.
But
yeah.
Ellie's in the car when he gets back
Yeah.
after he drops it in the same place where it was, too. He just drops it down the hole.
Yeah.
And puts the thing over
Yeah,
it.
he drops it down and then pulls
Seems
it
like
up.
the wrong thing to do with it.
Right. Because
Set
even
up for a sequel is what they did right there.
Because even the box said only open under controlled conditions.
Right.
And he's like, whoa, what? That's weird. So, yeah, so he runs back out, gets in the GTO, and they're driving down the same road.
Right.
And it's like, vroom, go, 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 go.
And they freak out a little bit. You can see in their eyes. They're like,
Yeah, and he looks and he's like, oh.
out of gas.
Yeah, we're out of gas. She's like, oh, okay.
And then it's like almost opposite time because he gets out and he's like, well, at least we're close.
Yeah. And she's
she's
like, but you're the gearhead.
People will know. And
Yeah.
he's like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. So they start walking back, but then you see the little
There's growth.
Yeah.
Growth, character growth.
right. But you see the electricity kind of go through the license
the
plate and
energy's
shit.
back in the car somehow or maintained in the car maybe.
Or something,
Yeah.
right? So the
Yeah.
GTO is a time traveling car.
Oh.
But he was doing 120.
That could have been the sequel right there. And
Right.
then Back to the Future came out and they're like, oh.
Ah, damn it. We can't use the car. So that is my science project. I honestly, I have very fond memories of this. I really enjoy it. I think, and maybe I'm wrong in this one, but I see the actors have like tons of potential for the future. If you were to look at it at that point, kind of like almost like a Real Genius with Val Kilmer.
I think that maybe, like I said, I think it could have been the direction, and the writer and the director was the same person. So
Yeah.
he obviously had creative control
Right.
over it.
Right,
So I'm
right.
not saying it was the actor's fault, but Vinny's character was so over the top. It was like just terrible at times. I'm like, oh, come on.
And I love that part. of it. I really
In the
literally
first 50
just
minutes, I was like, okay. And then like when they go into the school,
Yeah.
it got cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was the best part. It was so weird and out of place, but like I said, it was like a video game
It totally was.
that didn't make sense.
100%.
Yeah, it's just totally freaking weird, right? But overall, I mean, I love the movie, and I'll always kind of have a soft spot in my heart for it. Okay, here's a little bitty anecdote about this movie too.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in Denver 3 or 4 years ago, right? And they have this pop culture store, right? It's an 80s and 90s toy store, 70s, whatnot, right? So it's all nothing but pop culture. Of course, they have an Elvira standee, you know what I mean?
Right, sure.
They have He-Man, they have G.I. Joes, they have the A-Team figures, Dukes of Hazzard dudes, movies, everything 80s, right?
Sure.
And what they do is, and this is weird, they hide things in the store with a little bitty dot on it that says free.
Really?
Right. And so, of course, I'm like, because I think my oldest son, he was buying something. He was getting like one of those food cadets or whatnot. You know, the little burger things where they're like fighting Burger Brigade or something. And, of course, I'm not going to ask, is this free? You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'll make my wife do it, right? I'm like, hey, would you go see if this is free? And it says free on it. And they're like, no, we put free stuff out there. So, yeah, that's yours. And it was a copy of My Science Project on VHS.
Really?
Yeah, I still
That's
got
awesome.
it. I mean, it's like an original copy too, like old school with the brown top. You know what I mean? On the VHS itself. Instead of being all black, it was like black, but then it had the brown on it. The lid, I guess,
Okay.
the one that flips up, the cover that protects the tape. So yeah, that was one of the coolest things, just to be like, oh, I know this movie and it's free.
Right? Score.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, they were like, "Oh, it's a good movie." I'm like, "Dude, it's a great movie." But yeah, I digress.
Well, no, that's awesome, man. How cool is that?
I know, right? To get a free copy of the VHS original.
Yeah, absolutely.
What?
Right, you can put it right next to your Theodore Rex.
I know. Well, that one's a clamshell one too, so I think that one's original.
Well, there's that.
I need to hook up my VHS.
You
and
own
TV.
all this guy's movies.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. What was the other one? Last Starfighter?
Well,
yes.
that wasn't his movie. He didn't direct it. He just wrote the original screenplay.
That's one of the only Blu-rays that I got.
Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't buy a lot of movies on physical discs anymore.
Of course.
It's not because of anything except for I just don't do it. But
They take up space.
yeah, right. But I think with Blu-rays, if I'm going to get a Blu-ray, my philosophy is you get the ones that have the best visuals because that's what it's for.
Sure.
You get an 80s movie in
Or
4K.
audio. I would even say audio.
Yeah, you get an 80s movie in 4K. Yeah, it looks great. And you're like, wow, that is like really super clear because regular film is way more high definition than what we actually have. It's like, what, 16K or something crazy like that, right? That's why every new edition of something comes out, you're like, wow.
So much better than it was last
Oh
time.
my God, Lawrence of Arabia looks awesome. Communion is like the shit. But Last Starfighter is one that I have. And even though it's really cheesy effects, I thought this would be worthy of a
I'm
Blu-ray.
kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I only own probably 10 Blu-rays, if that.
Yeah.
But I have like Spaceballs on Blu-ray for no reason.
Right.
Like I don't even remember. Like I swear I got that.
Right.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
one that made sense.
I think I have that one. I have The Thing, which The Thing kind of goes against my theory. And I know that. And there was another, or not my theory, but my modus operandi. But then there's another one that I have. It's just like a really big visual movie, and I always like to get those.
Yeah.
I think I have They Live on Blu-ray.
Really?
And I think it was my parents. And I borrowed it and I still got it.
Yeah. So now it's yours.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. That's how it's going to work for you too with your children.
Yeah, well, that's how it always is. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, can I borrow that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like 3 years later, I'm like, wow, I still have this.
I'm sure that's how my parents felt when I like borrowed tools.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I borrow your toolbox? No. You won't bring it back.
Well, obviously, nostalgia-wise for you, this was a big movie. I would honestly probably give this like 6 out of 10 hoppers.
Yeah.
Like as far as a movie goes.
Yeah. I'm saying just a little bit above you, about a 7 out of 10 Pig Mutants.
Okay.
Just because, I think it's a good movie, but the competition at the time wiped it out.
Oh, then I don't think there's much competition between the other 3 movies we mentioned.
Yeah.
And
They
this
destroyed
movie.
it.
Yeah, 100%.
They totally destroyed it. So, but yeah, no, that's
My science project.
yes, the Fisher-Stevens vehicle that led him to Short Circuit with Ali Sheedy
Yes.
and the Goot.
And the Goot. It's so funny because he went from a movie with the goat to a movie with the Goot.
You know what my personal attachment to this is? The buses had my name on them. The
Really?
actual school buses
Okay.
said like Brock something lines or something. Or Brock
Nice.
Transportation. Yeah, it was Brock
There you
Transportation.
go.
And I was like, whoa.
Hey, that's me.
That's like my total name. Whoa.
Excellent.
So, yeah, that's it. So, where can they reach us at, Dan?
Well, hey, if you want to talk about my science project or anything else, you can hit us up at dropculture.com, or you can send us an email to dropculturepodcast@gmail.com, or hit us up on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah.
What other socials? I think that's it.
That's pretty much the only ones that we actually frequent. So, yeah, you can email us if that's not your whole vibe. AOL, instant message us, whatever you need to do.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just reach out. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's it for today.
All right, later, dudes.
Peace.
Robert Roberts, Esquire. So Robert Roberts, Esquire. So Robert Roberts, Esquire. So Robert Roberts, Esquire. So